I suddenly had this realization that there was something I hadn't checked on the Xantia, or on the Tractiva, and it was worth checking because, look, blown. So now I've come to the Peugeot V6 engine, and I'm going to try and find a fuse among the bits and bobs I took off of this engine to replace this one with, to see if that has any impact on what that car is not doing at the moment. I found nothing there, but I did manage to find upstairs a 40 amp maxi fuse, which went in here. I put this in and it blows straight away. So I put that in there. Now, before I go playing with this, I'll explain. Over here, there's an inertia switch. You can't really see it. An inertia switch is basically like a switch that trips if you have a crash. So if it detects an impact or a sudden jolt, it cuts out. And what it's doing is cutting out the fuel pump. This car, you might think, well, that's a stupid thing. You should have checked that. It's obviously had a crash. Yes, it has. But it was running. The inertia switch wasn't tripped. But then the other day, of course, new problems. I mean, it was a year, 18 months later, whatever, maybe even 2 years since I last run it. Sat there, didn't want to go. Fine. Because it didn't want to go, I'm cranking. And for some reason, it's possible that the inertia switch had then been tripped. Somehow, I don't know why. Probably to do all the mouse nest that's behind it. So, the possibility here is that the mouse has tripped the switch, because when I pushed the switch the other day, it clicked. It won't now, but if I push it now, nothing. But the other day it went. And a fella the other day, I forget his name, but I'll put it on the screen because it was a valid point, said, have you checked the inertia switch? And I thought, well, actually I haven't. There's no reason to check it because it hasn't been in another crash since the first crash. But I think he might have been onto something, so I checked it. And I could, after I've done that, well, I realised actually, when I put the car back in the workshop the other day and I was filming, God, I got really tired. When I was, I am really tired, I'm knackered. When I put the car back in the workshop the other day, the starter motor stopped cranking. It wouldn't crank over. Because it wouldn't crank over, I couldn't see if the inertia switch thing had fixed it. So then I was thinking, like, why won't it crank over? The immobiliser, both the lights were coming on the immobiliser, and it was getting all upset. So I went on this morning to do some research to see if somehow the immobiliser is bricked or something like that. And in that I found 2 lights on the immobiliser, and a complete lack of reaction means that the immobiliser has lost contact to the ECU. And then I find a broken fuse, or blown fuse. Now that is a massive fuse. Can't imagine that's what the immobiliser goes through, but I'm just going to unplug the battery there, wait a few seconds before putting it back on. I haven't been through any other fuses. I mean, we've been through a few of the fuses in this fuse box here. Ooh. Ooh, I wonder if that's done something. So this is real time now. So I've got... When you hook the battery back up, the alarm goes on. Oh, no, is it? Oh, now the immobiliser's flashing red. No, that's no good. Both the lights have come on together. For Christ's sake. And that's the problem. The green light and the red light come on together. It makes this stupid noise. I've no idea what that is. I think there's a little fan behind the alarm vent there. Yeah, that little fan is rubbing something. Oh, it's getting really annoying, considering that I don't even want this engine in the car. I want to get the car running before I take it apart. A, to prove it runs, for anyone who wants to buy the engine, because the engine's probably worth a few quid, and they're quite rare now. And I also want to raise the suspension up so that I can jack the car up to weigh it. But, yeah, it's got no starter at all now. It's not cranking. You turn the key, some of the lights go out. I mean, the ignition switch is doing something, but well, I'll show you. It's probably the easiest way. I mean, you put the ignition on. That noise. Shut up! Half this dashboard isn't even bolted together. So look at the immobiliser. Look, turn the key. Nothing. Battery light. And I am disappointed. I need to find out what that fuse was. It may be that is something completely unrelated and it's just a result of the accident damage. Maybe something to do with the aircon or something like that. But I am getting the ump with this because this drove fine. Well, it didn't drive fine, but it drove. It worked. It ran. And I know that this relay can affect that immobiliser. So I'm just going to try a different one in there. That's the fuel pump relay I was looking for the other day. Nope. Both lights together. Okay, so the maxi fuses I was looking at there are for the cooling fan. Have been through the others. These are all alarm immobiliser related. Took them out, a bit corroded, put them back in. No different. Well, I cleaned them while they were out. But I have found something else, and I thought I will bring you along for the ride. So you know when I pulled it out the bush, did you see the bits of plant grabbing at it as I pulled it away? Because obviously I'm very strong. Well, this probably has something to do with it. So this is all a bit biffed up from the crash. But I'm just going to try and plug these back in. Doing this one-handed is quite difficult. Hang on, I'm going to plug them in and come back. They are now both plugged in. Just. Let's see what happens now. Let's lock. Because the alarm... Ooh. Okay. The immobiliser light is flashing red, that's good. For Christ's sake. No. Oh. Right, I've figured out what's happened so far. When I was out in the bay, outside, and I was cranking and cranking and cranking and I couldn't get any fuel to come through, what happened then was whatever the problem is, lack of fuel coming through. Put the car in the workshop, then I had another problem. It wouldn't crank over and there were immobiliser lights locking out and all sorts. I have since sorted the immobiliser lights locking out. They were this connector down here, which obviously, because when I pulled it out of the space, some foliage, triffids, whatever you like, had got around that wiring loom, and as I pulled it back, it yanked out that plug. Those plugs are supposed to be heavy duty, clicked in things, and because someone has driven it into the side of a Ford C-Max, it's destroyed the plugs. They are just about hanging on, making contact. They're not locked in there at all. If you bump into them, they fall out. But they're in there enough to make it work. And having had a bit of flapping about with air, I've now got the immobiliser to play ball, which has put us back into another position because the immobiliser is playing ball, but the engine would not crank. So then I started sticking screwdrivers down on the starter motor there to see if I could get the starter motor to short, to see if I could get the solenoid to short to the main thing, to see if the engine would turn over. Lots of sparks, lots of swearing. A screwdriver has been thrown and the engine wasn't turning over. So I went inside, started playing with the key. Why won't it start? Why won't it start? Just getting stressed. And all of a sudden, ka-chunk, ka-chunk, starter motor is starting to do things. And what's going on here? Turn the key, wiggle the key, starter motor works, engine cranks. Back to where we were the other day. So I'm now going to try replacing the relay. that I don't think will be the cause of it, to be honest with you. But I'm going to try sticking this other relay in, because by the time I tried that relay, and it's not the inertia switch, and by the time I tried this relay, I had the other problems, because I'd pulled it back and the plants had destroyed the wiring loom. Well, destroyed the wiring loom. A Ford C-Max back axle destroyed the wiring loom. Right, so there's a new relay for the fuel pump in there. I am not confident at all. It's still making this stupid noise. Right. Right. I still don't think we have a fuel pump. But I have some wiring diagrams now. I think I'm just going to check and see whether there is power going to the fuel pump. And see if I can figure out what's causing that. So we know all this is fine. We know that it's probably not that. But we are back to where, well, we're not, because you don't care. It's not your car. It's not your problem. You're sat at home. Fine. I'm in a cold workshop trying to get a smashed up Citroen Xantia working. Yeah, so I'm going to have a look at the fuel pump and see if I can get that to go. And if I can't get that to go, then I'm going to move back onto the tomato, because that needs some stuff doing as well. So we'll see what happens. That's the last roll of the dice. I do obviously have a spare fuel pump in that other Xantia outside. Well, don't know if that works, but it did. It drove there. Yeah, the fuses in here control most other things. And oh my God, what on earth has happened there? What manner of awful thing? Oh my God. Who's done this? Right, hang on. I daren't push this because I worry that it's something to do with these seats. So I don't know if this car had factory fitted leather or if someone has retrofitted these. Bear with. Right. What in dear God's... What on earth? What fuse is that that's just melted and broken apart? Right, I'm going to have to run through some fuses here and find... I'm going to disconnect the battery first. Because I have no idea what on earth has happened here, but... Fuse 20. Go and find out what fuse 20 is. Ah, fuse 9, that was the one I was looking for. Citroen very thoughtfully have... I think that's in one piece. Ooh, where were you, fuse 9? But I'm going to have to see what fuse 20 was, because that's doing me a concern. Right, I've now been into... that's why I should put this. I've now been into back. I've removed... can you even see anything? Not really. I've removed this seat here, although I am going to refit it because that's one of the things I'm going to get my kids to remove. So I'm putting it back in. I've undone the disconnected the wire into the fuel pump here. I can't find my multimeter, but I don't think there's 12 volts going to it because it's not even trying to do anything. But that is the first thing to do. Put a battery in the back, put 12 volts direct to the fuel pump, nothing, just lots of sparking and hot wires. Reverse them, tried to run the pump backwards, got a kadunk, it started running backwards, switched the wires back round again, the right way, it's now running. Let's see if it starts, because... what do you reckon? The Tractiva lives! Let us raise the Tractiva. I'm still making a horrible noise. Right, suspension up. Highest setting. I think it might have run out of LHM because I think it's got a leak. It doesn't appear to be doing much, does it? Tractiva needs replenishing, see? Starting to make gurgling noises. Right, let's lift it up. Oh, I think the back is starting to raise. Lift! Yeah, look, it's going! All the way, Tractiva! Oh, this is a momentous occasion. Got power steering? Yeah, kind of, ish. Oh man, look at that. Have you ever seen a sight as beautiful as that? Don't answer that one. Oh, yes. Look at that arch gap. Most people want them low, but I want it high so I can work on it. Oh, yes. Stop light's still on. Power steering is questionable. It's kind of working. Oh yeah, it's still got a lot of air in it. There's no point in a way filling all this up because it'll probably all have to come out again. This had nothing in it. It really was empty. They've got cooling in it. Better not run it too long. Stop light out. Power steering returned. Yes. Oh man, this is beautiful. Coolant temperature rising. No indicators at all. I don't know what's going on there. No heater fan. But we've got a horn. Brake lights apparently. Oh, have we got brake lights? Oh, because I know it's lights, isn't it? Have I got brake lights? Yes. Tractiva lives. Yes. The throttle is a bit stuck. Whooshing noises. Yeah, boy. I better turn this off before I die. There's one other job I'm doing. Well, two other jobs I'm doing. I'm going to unplug the heated seats. Not because it's warm and I don't need them, but because I'm going to be selling them. So they can go down there. And then this can come out. Ooh. Look at all that horrible wiring. Who's done that? And there is a trick I have learned. It's a trick that I'm going to take part in. So, ignition back on. Need a light in here that doesn't require something magnetic. There we go. Ignition back on. Immobiliser disarm. Get it out of gear. Wiggle the key. Get it running. And then unplug the immobiliser. And then switch the engine off. And then in theory, no immobiliser. Some sequence of events. So, to summarise, wouldn't start the other day because fuel pump was stuck from being parked up from a million years or whatever. So it wouldn't start the other day. That was just the fuel pump, it now turns out. So I pushed it out of the area that it was in. And in doing so, some of the foliage and scenery had grown around a damaged loom connector, a major loom connector, which passes through the body here, normally protected by the wing and the front bumper, which are no longer protecting it because it hit a Ford C-Max. So that meant the immobiliser was not happy. The immobiliser was locked out. It went into a duck fit mode. Fun and games. It was cranking over out there. Brought it back in here. It stopped cranking over. Okay, fine. Eventually find out that the immobiliser was caused by connector falling out there. Fine. Sorted that. Still no cranking. Oh no, is that immobiliser related? No, because the immobiliser on this car doesn't stop it cranking. It just stops it running. That turned out to be a dodgy ignition contact in the ignition switch with key, which wasn't dodgy the other day, but it was dodgy today. Again, possibly because it's burnt out or because it's been sat around a long time, whatever. That doesn't matter. I'm going to get rid of that anyway. It's going to be a push button start because race car. So wiggled the key around, got that working, found the fuel pump didn't have 12 volts. Found the fuel pump did have 12 volts going to it after all. I didn't think it did, but it did. Ran the fuel pump backwards off the battery from a TVR, then ran it forwards again, and then after getting everything hooked up and aligned and everything like that, you saw it, it started. So that's 3 different problems. One of them caused by being stowed up a long time. One of them caused by trying to crank it over many times because it had been stowed up a long time. And one of them caused by wildlife ripping out a wiring loom down here. So the Tractiva's had a good start. But the Tractiva lives.